Hello aspirants, welcome to Current Affairs for Beginners initiative by La Excellence. This initiative will help beginners in reading the Hindu newspaper. Let me give you answers for yesterday's questions. The first question is, which of the following is an Indian innovation in the field of parliamentary procedures? The answer is C, 0 hour. The second question is, Swachh Bharat Mission Rural comes under the Ministry of Drinking Water and Sanitation. And the second option is, the objective of this program is to bring behavioral change in people regarding the health sanitation practices. Both the statements are correct, so the answer is C, 1 and 2. Topics covered under today's core are Article 35A, why it is in use and what are the controversies regarding this Article 35A, and what is this safeguard duty, and what are these special economic zones, what is this virus Ebola. One is Chandrayaan 2 mission. First article is Jammu and Kashmir tends ahead of Supreme Court hearing. In this article, you have to see this Article 35A. What is this Article 35A? Why it is in use? What are the provisions of this? And when it was introduced. This Article 35A was in use because this Article 35A is constitutionally validity. That is, whether this was constitutionally valid or not. This was challenged in the Supreme Court. So, this was in use. And why it was challenged? Because of two reasons. Saying what are the reasons why this was challenged? Let us know what is this Article 35A. This Article 35A will empower the Jammu and Kashmir state legislature. That is, through this article, this Jammu and Kashmir state legislature can define certain people as permanent residents, and for these people they will have certain special rights and privileges they can enjoy, like these people can have property in that state, and these people only have job reservation in that state, and these people can have settlements, and these people have right to scholarships or any other forms of aid given by Jammu and Kashmir. These special privileges only for this permanent residents they have. And how this Jammu and Kashmir even define this permanent resident is, they can be defined as a person who was a state subject on May 14th, 1954. That means before 1954, if he is a part of that state or he was a resident of that state for 10 years. These people should lawfully acquire any immovable property like houses or land or any land for agriculture. Like that, if these people with these two conditions, any of these two conditions can have land, then they will be called as permanent residents up to now. And you can ask one question. This permanent resident definition can be changed by Jammu and Kashmir legislature, as they can change this definition by 2/3 majority. So you understood what is this Article 35A. This Article 35A empowers Jammu and Kashmir state legislature to define permanent residents, and these residents will have certain rights. And now what is the controversy? The first issue is, we have Article 368 in our Indian Constitution. And in this article, there will be a procedure how to amend constitution. That is, how to add any article or how to delete any article or how to modify any article. Now this Article 35 not followed this procedure, and this was added directly by Presidential Order 1954 and not through any parliamentary procedure. So this was not followed through this constitutional amendment procedure. And the second thing is, it violates the basic structure of the constitution. That is, we have this parliament have to do this process, executive have to do this process. Since president took this legislative power of bill making or article amending, so this violates the basic structure. And the third thing is, this violates Article 14. How? We have said permanent residents only have certain privileges. What about the non-residents? In parts of the country, this is like discriminating. Article 14 says equality before law. Everyone is equal. But this Article 35A is discriminating, and only permanent residents have the power to enjoy. In particular, Jammu and Kashmir, they were saying like it was like discriminatory. And beside these issues, I have said with some reasons Supreme Court it was challenged. That two reasons are: the first thing is it is against the very spirit of oneness of India, as it creates class within the class of Indian citizens. Like Indian citizens is one group, and within this Indian citizens you are creating something like permanent residents, and these should have special powers. And the argument is you are creating class within the class. The second issue is in Jammu and Kashmir constitution, this restricts that basic right to property. That is, if any native woman who is having permanent residency and she marries a person who is not a permanent resident, then she can't get that property of the ancestors. And this provision was supported by this Article 35A. Based on these two reasons, in Supreme Court, they were questioning the constitutional validity of this Article 35A. The next article is solar duty may do more harm than good. In this article, you have to know what is the safeguard duty. Safeguard duty, that is, if you have two countries, this country is exporting more quantity of goods into this country, and if this country is feeling this imports was of large quantities and this is affecting their own countries, domestic countries, then this country will impose some barriers. For example, this country is exporting 100 bags of rice, and now after some days it is exporting 150 bags, and the domestic people who are farmers here, they were affecting because of this imports. Then this country will impose some taxes on these bags. This is called as safeguard duty. This is to ensure that imports in excessive quantities do not harm the domestic industry. And in this article, India has imposed a safeguard duty on solar panels from China and Malaysia. These two countries are exporting more amounts of, that is, more quantities of solar panels into our country. So this India has imposed a safeguard duty on that. And the next thing you have to know is SEZs, special economic zones. What are the special economic zones? It is a particular area in the country where in this area you will have some economic concessions. Like in this area, if any industrialist want to have an industry in this area, he will be given some concessions like single window clearance, one of that. They will be given some tax concessions. Or if this is government land, they will be given it less rate. If a person want to have an industry in this SEZ is given these special privileges because to improve additional economic activity. That is, these SEZs are mostly some areas that is outside the village or town or any particular area where there are less facilities. If this area can be made special economic zone, firstly industries will come in this area. Then after this industries come, there will be employment generation, and for this employment generation there will be house for these employers, and like that infrastructure will develop and this economic activity will increase like this. The next article is anatomy of an outbreak. In this article, we have to see what is this Ebola. This is a viral fever caused by Ebola virus. And this was first identified in 1976 in the Democratic Republic of Congo, an African country, in the village near this Ebola river. That is, this virus got the name after this river, remember. And this virus is transmitted from the wild animals to humans and then humans to humans. And how it will be transmitted? Whether this infected person body fluids got in contact with this person will be also affected with this virus. That is, body fluids such as blood, urine or saliva. Through sexual transmission also this viral fever can be spread out. And the major host, that is natural host of this virus, is fruit bat. We have also seen this fruit bat in recently we have Nipah virus transmitting in Kerala and some other parts of the country. And for this also host is fruit bat. And for Ebola also the natural host is fruit bat. And what are the symptoms of this fever is high fever, bleeding and central nervous system damage. And remember, this there is no proven treatment available for this Ebola virus. This can be your prelims question. There is no proven treatment, and the natural host is fruit bat, and this virus got the name from the river. These three statements you remember. This article is about recently World Health Organization has announced in Democratic Republic of Congo there is no Ebola virus prevalent. Only after few days of announcement, again this Ebola virus was returned to this particular country, and the article is about that. Here you should remember, this World Health Organization is the international organization, and this organization will declare that in any particular country, and from now this disease was no more prevalent in your country. This organization will announce that. Next article is launch of India's second moon mission postponed. This article will help you in prelims and through the topic science and technology. You can read this article. Here you have to know about this Chandrayaan-2 mission. And you should know what are the features of this mission and whether this is the first mission on the moon or not. Any other special points regarding this Chandrayaan-2. This is India's second mission to the moon. The first one is Chandrayaan-1 mission, and this is the second mission to the moon, and this is the totally indigenous mission comprising of orbiter, lander and rover. Three things you'll have in this mission, that is orbiter, lander and rover. Firstly, after reaching this 100 kilometers lunar orbit, that is around the moon you'll have orbit. After reaching that, this orbiter will be separated from this lander, and in this lander you will have a rover. This lander will softly launch the rover onto the surface of the moon, and this rover is a six-wheeled rover which will move around the landing site of the moon. That is, this rover will move on this moon. Based on the grounding commands, this rover will observe the lunar surface and will be useful for analysis of the lunar soil. That is how the soil in this moon will be there. This rover will also give us scientific information about this lunar topography, how the surface on the moon was, and what are the minerals available there, and what are the elements available there, how the outer part of this lunar look like, and what are the whether they are water or ice or anything on this moon. Everything about this rover will give you. For understanding, you should know this Chandrayaan mission consists of orbiter, lander and rover. After reaching the orbit, this orbiter will divide from this lander, and in this lander you will have a rover. And this lander will launch that rover on the moon, and this rover is useful for identifying the information like what are the minerals present there, what are the elements present there, how the outer atmosphere of the moon looks like, and whether there are any parts like water, ice, what is the topography on this moon. Everything this rover will find out and gives us the information. But for prelims perspective, we should see this information, that is Chandrayaan-2 will be ISRO's first attempt to land a rover. Means in Chandrayaan-1 you don't have a rover. In Chandrayaan-2 they are adding the rover to find out. And the second point is it will be made to land near the unexplored south pole of the moon. Means up to now so many missions went to moon, but this is unexplored south pole this Chandrayaan-2 is going to have. So this two statements is helpful for your prelims. Let us see this question. This was asked in 2016 prelims about Mangalyaan. Like we are sending this mission on Chandrayaan-2 on the moon, this Mangalyaan is on Mars. So this is 2016 prelims question. They have asked, it is also called as Mars Orbital Mission. It made the India's second country to have a spacecraft orbit after the USA. It made India the only country to be successful in making its spacecraft orbit the Mars in its very first attempt. And the answer for this question is 1 in 3, because this is not the second country. India is the fourth country to launch on the Mars. So we can expect a similar type of questions whenever from science and tech. If you see any satellite or any launch vehicle or any mission is going to launch, you should know the specific features of it and the things like whether India is the first country to launch or not. Try to answer today's questions. The first question is regarding SEZ Act of 2005, and the second question is regarding Article 35A. It was introduced into the Indian Constitution through a Constitutional Amendment Act under Article 368, and it was to grant special category status to the category B states. Try to answer these questions, and the answers with detailed explanations will be provided in the next video, and the core notes will be available at www.likes.in/CivilsPrep website. You can go there and download the notes. Thank you.